When we talk about great antagonists in anime, certain names immediately rise to the surface. Griffith from Berserk, Miriam from Hunter x Hunter, Aizen from Bleach, and Madara from Naruto. Each of these villains embodies not only conflict, but also an idea, a philosophy, a reflection of humanity's flaws, or a terrifyingly pure force of nature. They are not just obstacles for the hero, they are catalysts, characters who redefine the narrative around them. In the pantheon of new generation anime, Ryomen Sukuna of Jujutsu Kaisen is rapidly emerging as one of the most compelling additions to this lineage. He is not simply the King of Curses, he is a character who from the moment he appears, shifts the gravitational pull of the story. Unlike many villains whose menace builds slowly, Sukuna arrives fully formed, an ancient terror, a godlike curse, and a being whose very existence destabilizes the world of sorcerers. But what makes Sukuna truly remarkable is not just his raw power, it's the layered construction of his character, the blending of myth and personality, the balance of sadism and intelligence, and the way he embodies the duality at the heart of Jujutsu Kaisen. In this first part of our exploration, we'll break down why Sukuna represents a new archetype of villainy for modern anime, one that stands apart from both his predecessors and his contemporaries. To understand Sukuna, we need to begin with his mythic framing. From the outset, Jujutsu Kaisen presents him not just as a curse, but as a legend. The King of Curses is a title weighted with history. He is not a villain who emerges organically within the timeline of the story, he is a remnant of a darker age. A monster so terrifying that even in death, fragments of his body remains catastrophic weapons. This mythic quality places Sukuna in rare company. Where characters like Madara and Aizen rose within their worlds, Sukuna exists above his. He is already a legend before the story even begins. That immediately separates him from other modern antagonists. They often rise alongside the protagonist. Sukuna is not parallel to Yuji, it's Yuji who is forced to exist parallel to him. This dynamic inverts the usual hero-villain relationship, creating an imbalance that makes Sukuna feel less like a character and more like a natural disaster, something eternal and inevitable. And yet, Sukuna is not just myth, he is frighteningly human. He laughs, he mocks, he toys with others. His sadism is laced with wit. Unlike villains who hide behind ideology or inscrutable motives, Sukuna is refreshingly transparent. He delights in destruction, and he does so with theatrical relish. This duality, the godlike figure who is also vividly human, is what makes him unforgettable. Too often, mythic hero villains are reduced to abstract forces, using their personality and the weight of their symbolism. Sukuna avoids that trap. His sharp tongue, his cruel smirk, the way he toys with Yuji and Megami and the others. These details grant him in characters even as myth looms larger than life. He is both an idea and a person. The King of Curses is terrifying not just because he is unbeatable, but because he enjoys it. At the heart of Jujutsu Kaisen lies a fascinating paradox. Yuji Itadori, the earnest and selfless protagonist, is forced to share his body with the world's greatest evil. This creates not only a tension between the hero and the villain, but also a symbolic duality. Yuji represents compassion, while Sukuna represents cruelty. Yuji seeks to save lives, while Sukuna delights in ending them. But Sukuna is not just Yuji's opposite, he is also Yuji's inevitable shadow. Where Yuji insists on the value of life, Sukuna insists on its fragility. Where Yuji fights to give meaning to death, Sukuna strips meaning away with casual brutality. Their coexistence forces the story to constantly oscillate between hope and despair. Every battle, every victory is haunted by the reminder that Sukuna is still there, watching, waiting, and ready to reassert his dominance. This makes Sukuna one of the most effective antagonists of the modern era. He doesn't need to be on screen constantly to influence the story. His presence inside Yuji means every scene, every depiction, every decision is simplicity shaped by him. There's also the matter of Sukuna's design, something too often overlooked in analytical discussions, but critical in establishing him as a cultural icon. The multiple eyes, the markings around his body, the cruel grin, all evoke both demon and deity. His aesthetic is neither subtle nor restrained. It is maximalist, unapologetically monstrous. And yet, his human host, Yuji, embodies plainness. This contrast heightens Sukuna's presence. When Sukuna emerges, the ordinary is replaced by extraordinary, the mundane eclipsed by the mythic. His very appearance transforms the atmosphere of the narrative. Few villains can claim such effect. So why call Sukuna the best of the new generation? It is because he synthesizes the lessons of past antagonists while breaking new ground for the future. From Aizen, he inherits theatrical confidence, and from Madara, he shares the legacy of a world-shaking legend. But unlike any of them, Sukuna is not driven by ideology, destiny, or tragedy. He is driven by desire, the desire to dominate, to destroy, to revel in his superiority. In a landscape of villains who justify their actions with philosophy, Sukuna stands out precisely because he doesn't. He is evil for the sake of his own, and yet rendered so vividly that we cannot look away. This makes him perfectly suited for modern anime audiences, which has grown weary of overly rationalized villains. Sukuna is a return to pure, unfiltered menace, but delivered with enough charisma and depth to feel fresh. He is both a throwback and a progression, an antagonist who feels timeless, yet utterly of this era. Sukuna, in the opening moments of Jujutsu Kaisen, establishes himself not just as a villain, but as an existential presence. He is both myth and man, idea and character, shadow and substance. In an era where villains are often softened with sympathetic backstories or redeemable motives, Sukuna rejects all of this. He is evil incarnate, and that's precisely what makes him captivating. The mark of a truly great antagonist is not just how memorable they are in isolation, but how much they reshape the narrative around them. Madara rewrote the entire world order of Naruto. Aizen's schemes turned Bleach into a grand chessboard. Griffith shattered the foundation of Berserk and redefined its trajectory. Sukuna belongs firmly in this category. Unlike those examples, Sukuna's impact is not delayed by hundreds of chapters of build-up. He's baked into the DNA of Jujutsu Kaisen from the very first episode, ensuring that his shadow looms over everything. Yuji Todoro's story cannot be told without Sukuna. This is one of the most radical choices Geiji Akutami makes as a storyteller. Instead of the protagonist finding his arrival later, Yuji begins his journey with the greatest evil already inside of him. This creates a paradoxical hero's journey. Normally, a protagonist gains strength to rise towards an enemy. Yuji, however, is defined by constant containment. His victories are not just about defeating curses, but about ensuring Sukuna does not gain ground. This is a unique narrative device. Every battle is haunted by the possibility of Sukuna seizing control. Think of how this reframes Yuji's victories. When he defeats a curse, it is not simply a heroic act. It is also a reaffirmation that he is still himself. Every punch thrown, every enemy to overcome, is a rejection of Sukuna's dominance. The antagonist thus defines the terms of the protagonist's very existence. Another reason Sukuna functions so effectively as a narrative engine is the way he generates tension without even appearing. Many villains fade when absent from the page or screen. Sukuna never does. Why? Because his presence is always implicit. He lives inside Yuji. His power is a constant temptation. His influence makes every moment unstable. Even in arcs where Sukuna barely appears, the audience never forgets that he could appear at any time, reasserting control in both catastrophic and unpredictable ways. This creates a unique form of suspense. We need not just worry about external threats, we worry about the hero himself. We are reminded again and again that Yuji is never safe, not even from his own body. That sense of intimate danger is a rare and powerful tool, and Sukuna embodies it perfectly. To understand Sukuna's deeper role in the story, we must look at one of Jujutsu Kaisen's central themes, the tension between meaning in life and the inevitability of death. Yuji fights to preserve meaning, to make sure that people's deaths are not in vain, that their lives mattered. He clings to the possibility of significance. Sukuna, by contrast, represents the annihilation of meaning. To him, life is trivial, death is entertainment, and humans are tools to be manipulated or discarded. This thematic clash does more than fuel battles. It defines the existential framework of Jujutsu Kaisen. Yuji is a character desperately trying to carve meaning out of a cruel and different world. Sukuna is that cruel indifference given form. Their battle is not just physical, but philosophical. Another fascinating dimension of Sukuna's role is the way he grants the story freedom. Because Sukuna lives within Yuji, this series has a built-in mechanism for shocking reversals. If the plot ever risks stagnation, Sukuna can erupt, seize control, wreaking havoc, resetting the stakes. This is masterful storytelling design. It ensures that the narrative can never fall into predictability. Sukuna is a wild card, a destabilizing force that can reshape entire arcs within a single appearance. This structural function separates him from villains who rely on long setups or grand plans. Sukuna doesn't need a plan. His existence itself is enough to upend the story. And yet, beneath the myth and menace, Sukuna is not wholly alien. His sadism, his hunger for dominance, his delight in suffering, all are extensions of humans' darkest impulses. This makes him unsettling, because he is not an abstract demon detached from us. He is a mirror held up to our cruelty. Yuji insists that humans can find meaning and compassion. Sukuna insists that humans are just meat, that cruelty is as natural as breathing. These are not just clashing characters, they are clashing worldviews. Every time Sukuna speaks, he forces the audience to confront the uncomfortable truth that perhaps he is not as inhuman as we'd like to believe. This is what elevates him beyond evil for evil's sake. Sukuna is compelling precisely because his cruelty resonates with human darkness. He is not a distant god, he is humanity's ugliest potential, magnified to mythic proportions. Fear in Jujutsu Kaisen is not incidental, it is the backbone of the world itself. Curses are born from human fear. The entire sorcerer society exists to contain what people dread most. And in that context, Sukuna is the purest embodiment of fear. What's brilliant here is that Sukuna does not just embody fear within the story, he also creates fear for the audience. His unpredictability, his casual cruelty, his mythic inevitability all ensure that we too feel the dread whenever he emerges. This is a rare feat. Sukuna is not just feared by characters, he is feared by us. He collapses the boundary between narrative and viewer, becoming a shared object of terror.